When we think about the classic American muscle cars of the 1960s, a few models always come to mind: the Ford Mustang, the Chevy Camaro, and Corvette. Those are the heavy hitters that tend to get all the attention. But there's one Chevy muscle car from that era that I think really deserves more love. Stick around to find out. The Nova SS 396 is the most underrated Chevrolet muscle car of the 60s. While a lot of muscle car enthusiasts get really hyped up about models like the Camaro and Chevelle, there's one Chevy from the 60s that I think is really underappreciated: the Nova SS 396. Now, the Nova may not have the same instant name recognition as those other icons, but trust me, this thing is packing some serious muscle. Chevy introduced the Nova SS 396 as part of the third-gen Nova lineup in 1968, and they stuffed it with a massive 396 cubic inch V8 under the hood. And with its lightweight frame, the Nova SS 396 had an incredible power-to-weight ratio that made it an absolute sleeper on the streets. I mean, this thing could really scoot. In fact, that's a big part of what made the Nova SS 396 such a hidden gem: its compact size and unassuming looks. While the Chevelle and Camaro SS models were flashy and well-known, the Nova just kind of flew under the radar with its more subtle styling. And another factor that can't be overlooked is the price. While the Chevelle and Camaro SS were selling for a premium, the Nova SS 396 was actually pretty affordable, with an original base price of just under $3,000. That's a whole lot of muscle for the money, and that affordability has carried over to the collector's market as well. These days, you can pick up a third-gen Nova SS 396 for an average of around $55,000, at least $15,000 less than a comparable Chevelle or Camaro. So if you're a gearhead looking to get a ton of bang for your buck, the Nova SS 396 is definitely worth a closer look. So there you have it, the Nova SS 396, Chevy's hidden muscle car gem from the 1960s. Don't sleep on this one because it's packing some serious performance that's well worth discovering. What do you think about this car? Let's have your thoughts in the comments section. The Chevrolet Nova SS 396 is a powerhouse. Listen, when you're talking about the underrated status of the 1960 Nova SS 396, you really can't overlook the sheer power that was hiding under the hood of this sleeper car. I mean, Chevy really went all out when they equipped the Nova SS 396 with their legendary L78 396 cubic inch V8 engine. This thing was built for some serious performance. With 375 horsepower on tap, the L78 V8 in the Nova SS 396 was an absolute beast. And when you combine that kind of crazy power with the Nova's lightweight frame, you end up with an undercover muscle car that could really scoot. I'm talking top speeds of 128 miles per hour and 0 to 60 times of just 5.4 seconds. That's no joke. In fact, the Nova SS 396's performance numbers actually outshine some of its more famous muscle car siblings. While the Chevelle SS 396 could only manage a top speed of 125 miles per hour and 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds, the lighter and more powerful Nova was leaving it in the dust. And when you line the Nova SS 396 up against the Camaro SS 396, it's an even closer matchup. The Camaro may have a slight edge at 130 miles per hour top speed, but the Nova's superior power-to-weight ratio gives it the edge in the sprint to 60 miles per hour, getting there in just 5.4 seconds compared to 5.5 for the Camaro. So what does all this mean? Well, it shows that this unassuming little Nova was no slouch when it came to straight-line performance. In fact, this Chevy muscle car sleeper could hold its own against some of the most iconic nameplates of the era. The only difference is, the Nova was able to keep a much lower profile. And that sleeper status is a big part of what makes the Nova SS 396 such an underrated gem today. While the Chevelle and Camaro have become muscle car royalty, the Nova SS 396 has managed to fly under the radar, offering serious performance at a relative bargain. So if you're a gearhead looking to get your hands on a true 60s muscle car sleeper, the Nova SS 396 is definitely worth a closer look. It may not have the name recognition of some of its siblings, but under that modest exterior beats the heart of a true performance machine. The Chevrolet Nova SS 396 models are quite rare. You know, when you start looking at why the Chevrolet Nova SS 396 is one of the most underrated Chevy muscle cars of the 1960s, the rarity of this model has to be a big part of the story. I mean, let's be real. While the standard Chevy Nova was rolling off the assembly line in pretty decent numbers during that era, the Nova SS 396 was actually a much more limited high-performance variant. In fact, the experts tell us that Chevy only produced around 22,000 Nova SS 396 models between 1968 and 1970. That's a pretty small run, especially when you start to compare it to some of Chevy's other more famous muscle cars from that time period. Take 1968, for example. That was a banner year for Chevy muscle. They churned out over 57,000 Chevelle SS models and more than 30,000 Camaro SS models that year. But when it came to the Nova SS 396, the production numbers were way more limited. They only made around 5,571 of them in 1968. So while the Chevelle and Camaro were being heavily marketed and produced in huge quantities, the Nova SS 396 kind of got left behind. It just didn't get anywhere near the same level of attention or production allowance from Chevy as those other models. And you know that rarity is a big part of what makes the Nova SS 396 such a standout today. With its powerful big block engine and incredibly limited production numbers, this thing has become a highly sought-after collector's item for muscle car enthusiasts. I mean, getting your hands on one of these rare Novas is no easy feat. So not only does the Nova SS 396 have the performance to hang with the best of them, but its scarcity also cements its status as one of the most underrated and underappreciated Chevy muscle cars of the 1960s. It may not have had the same level of marketing and production as the Chevelle or Camaro, but that's a big part of what makes it such a special and unique find for any true gearhead. The Chevrolet Nova SS 396 remains an unsung icon with its nostalgic styling. I gotta tell you, while the Nova SS 396 may not be quite as flashy as some of Chevy's other more popular muscle car models from the 60s, like the Chevelle or the Camaro, this thing still has some serious visual appeal. I mean, just look at it. That blacked-out grille, the chrome trim, the wide stance, those rally wheels, and even an optional hood bulge to really let you know this thing means business. All of those details come together to give the Nova SS 396 a seriously performance-focused look. And in my opinion, that's a big part of what helps this unsung hero ascend into true muscle car status. And stepping inside the Nova SS 396, you really get a sense of that performance-oriented vibe. It's got this perfect blend of comfort and race-ready feel, the kind of cockpit that just makes you want to grab the wheel and see what this bad boy can do. Everything is dialed in for the driver, you know? It's the ultimate fusion of classic American craftsmanship and pure muscle car attitude. At the end of the day, the Chevrolet Nova SS 396 is the perfect blend of 1960s muscle and timeless style. It's got the raw power and the good looks to hang with the best of them. The only reason it never quite reached the same level of fame as the Chevelle or the Camaro is that it just kind of got overshadowed by those other models. They developed these cult-like followings that the Nova SS 396 could never quite match. But don't let that sleeper status fool you. This thing is an absolute stunner, with more than enough muscle under the hood to back up its mean looks. And despite never quite being able to reach that peak status, the Nova SS 396 has still managed to solidify its place as the most underrated Chevrolet muscle car of the 1960s. It demands respect, plain and simple. So if you're a true gearhead looking to get your hands on a classic Chevy muscle car with a serious edge, do yourself a favor and keep an eye out for the Nova SS 396. It may not be as flashy as some of the others, but trust me, this hidden gem is packing some serious performance that's well worth discovering. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and share this with fellow muscle car fans. See you in the next one.